So Ferrari have just unveiled their 2025 F1 car, and both Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc have wasted no time in taking it out to the track and giving us a first glimpse. This year's car is an evolution of last year's, and Ferrari would be hoping that they can continue their form and catch McLaren. Now, what might be good news for the Tifosi but not so much for the rivals is that both the drivers seem quietly optimistic about their chances, with Charles Leclerc noting that there were no bad surprises, which is exactly what they're looking for in the first few laps. Lewis Hamilton, who has been testing old Ferrari cars, also seemed excited that he can finally call the SF-25 his first ever Ferrari F1 car, and he was also in good spirits after the test drive, but both drivers tried not to give out too much information. Now, one of the key changes on the SF-25 from its predecessor is a new pull rod suspension at the front. The team has admitted that they had hit the ceiling with the push rod concept and that there is more scope for development with the pull rod, which is why they've gone the same path as McLaren and Red Bull. But the team are being cautious because a change in the front suspension can cause significant changes to the airflow from the front of the car, and that can have huge implications and effects on the car's overall balance. But Ferrari seems to be optimistic because this has been in the works for some time now, and the gains from the wind tunnel seem promising. The SF-25 also features revised and contoured side pods with a deeper undercut, which should help channel some of that airflow to the back of the car. Also new is P-shaped side pod inlets, which are eerily similar to last year's McLaren. But also similar to last year's McLaren is a V-shaped rear wing, which eagle-eyed fans would have seen on the McLaren in Brazil, but also on the Ferrari car back in 2022. Now, although the list of changes is quite extensive, it still is an evolution of last year's Ferrari, and Ferrari has kept all the good traits from last year's car, like the Cobra-style winglets near the halo, the overbite on the side pods that they introduced with the Imola package, and the front ring from the Singapore upgrade. Now, this is not necessarily a bad thing, since all those parts would have been working well on last year's package, and Ferrari will be hoping that they continue to do so with the SF-25. Now, what might not be an evolution is the livery. Ferrari has gone for a darker shade of cherry red, and they've also got a new white strip across the engine cover, but it still doesn't help blend in the HP logo. The use of white color is quite reminiscent of the early 2000 years, but maybe that's what they're going for, especially with the 7-time world champion driving for them. What would also be a big relief is that both drivers have similar driving styles, which would ensure that the car is developed in the same direction, which necessarily hasn't been the case at Ferrari over the last few years. Now, there are lap times and numbers online suggesting that the car is half a second quicker than the SF-24, but a lot of this could be down to the weather and the tire compounds, and this is an unofficial timing and not one posted by Ferrari, so I would take this with a pinch of salt. Now, Ferrari did get really close to the constructors last year, and they would be hoping that the SF-25 finally takes them to the top step after 17 years. How the car fares against competitors is still to be seen, but Ferrari are quietly optimistic about their chances, and we'll get to know for sure at the first qualifying session in Australia to see how these changes actually translate to gains on the track. Well, that is it, folks, but let us know what you think of the SF-25 and of Ferrari's chances in the 2025 season down in the comments below. And don't forget to hit that like button and subscribing to the channel for more F1 content. Thanks for watching Gridbox.